ahead and get started, shall we? I always appreciate conferences that start on time, so we're going to start maybe just a minute late, but not too bad. But first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and welcoming you to the 2013 XBRL National Conference on Current Developments in XBRL Financial Reporting. I do apologize, I'm coming off of a cold, so if I sniffle a little and sneeze, please just hang with me. My name is Arling Thomas, and I bring you greetings from XBRL US. Thank you for being here today to learn more about the current developments in XBRL financial reporting. Financial statement reporting in XBRL is no longer a new skill set for publicly traded companies. Most of you here today have actually had many years of experience reporting in XBRL, and you are working now on data quality and thinking about how XBRL can bring efficiencies to your organization and maybe also to gain deeper insights from that data. One of the best ways to improve efficiencies and gain insights and gain efficiencies is to come together in forums such like this, to be with others from around the country and also around the world that have similar goals. This is one place where it's probably okay to beg, borrow, and maybe even steal some good ideas that you hear. And I ask you to take them back and really deploy them within your organization. So I hope as you participate in the exercises and the discussions and also in these presentations that your knowledge grows and that you're able to bring back value to your organization. Well, I think it goes without saying that Las Vegas is a very unique city. I have traveled around the world and asked people if they think if there's another place like Las Vegas around the world, and generally I hear no, that we have the responsibility for Las Vegas and we hold that on our own. So I think it is such a unique city for us to be here. This is the third time that I've had the opportunity to host an XBRL conference. The first time was actually in Beijing, China, which if those of you that happened to be there, had a lot of red on the podium here. The other thing that was known for was that the Chinese actually announced and released the Chinese GAAP taxonomy. And also there were these acrobats that came bounding across the stage and actually struck Lee Watson, if you know Lee Watson, in the head with their foot and almost took her out. So it was a very memorable occasion for all of us. But at the time when I gave my opening address, I talked about a time where filers would create like data warehouses. And those warehouses would be very powerful because they would be enabled with XBRL. And I talked about a time when government agencies could pull from those warehouses and companies would be reducing their compliance cost and be able to reinvest those savings in things that drive value for companies. I do appreciate and very much acknowledge the wonderful things that XBRL can do for investors. To improve the flow of capital, of course, is very important for all of us. But to help businesses by reducing their cost of compliance, by helping them make better decisions, is really what XBRL is all about. I know we're not there yet, but we have made a lot of progress since we were in Beijing together. I believe our colleagues in Europe are actually leading the way in this area and actually refining their vision. And we often refer to that as the broader footprint. We can and should learn from them. Here in the United States, I think we're clearly leading the way through the use of extensions and the tremendous robustness of the data filed with the SEC. So this conference is focused on how computer-readable corporate data can and is changing and improving the way analysts, investors, and other data users do business. And we're also here today to hear about government thought leaders, how they are looking at XBRL as a means to unsnarl the tangled, inconsistent, and often unusable government program performance reporting in place today. Legislation pending right now would mandate the use of standardized data like XBRL for government reporting by contractors and agencies. That could change or have a significant impact on how corporations, government agencies, and others are consuming data. This is also the reduction in business compliance costs that we are advocating. The agenda for the next few days is really rich, starting with our opening remarks from U.S. House of Representative Darrell Issa. As chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee that has jurisdiction over much of the federal government operations, Chairman Issa is the chief sponsor of the driving force behind the House Digital Accountability and Transparency Act. He has also recently wrote a letter to the SEC calling the question on why the SEC has not fully embraced XBRL within the Commission. Our next speaker, I had the opportunity to meet in Dublin, and I was so taken by his speech, my Twitter account went crazy. So, Craig, that's a hint about my Twittering. Lewis is from the SEC, and he is truly a leader within the SEC who understands how to use structured data. In Dublin, I saw his vision for XBRL data to identify, and this is my word, risky data and risky filings. His ideas on how algorithms could also be deployed to predict potentially risky filings was spot on. I left Dublin thinking that how business looks at their filings, how auditors audit, and how the SEC provides oversight will forever change. I'm thrilled that he is with us today to share his thinking and his work. Our last keynote speaker this morning is Hal Schroeder, a member of the FASB. He holds the investor spot on the board, and from his past experience as an investor, he will speak to why XBRL and structured data is so important to investors and why it is important to the user and the preparer. He will also speak to why the FASB is involved and the relevance of XBRL to the standard setting process. To both of our speakers, thank you for being with us today. External reporting professionals at public companies have truly been pioneers in the XBRL reporting arena. Your efforts to learn how to work with XBRL, whether you outsource it or manage the process in-house, have helped pave the way for the use of structured data in other reporting domains. We know this process has been challenging, but we applaud your efforts at putting in place one of the biggest changes in accounting since the creation of the Securities and Exchange Edgar reporting system back in 1983. I'm proud to be standing here representing XBRL US at an event that gives financial executives at public companies practical lessons in how to work with and use XBRL for their own purposes. This event has been made possible by our many sponsors and also the Conference Planning Committee. I would like to take a moment and ask the Conference Planning Committee members to stand up so you can be recognized. I was going to say stand up. The conference program that you're seeing today and the speakers that we were able to bring in are truly because of these fine gentlemen and the context that they had. Thank you for joining us for these 2 days, and we hope you will leave with a greater understanding of how to manage the XBRL process in your own organization and with the tools that you need to put these to work. We also hope that you will have time not only to listen to the presentations, but to network with peer organizations and the XBRL experts on hand. These connections could help you down the road as you continue to manage your XBRL process. Now to the very important housekeeping notions. So before I introduce the keynote speaker, let me go with you through the reminders for the rest of the 2 days. As part of the check-in procedures, you would have received the CPE form, all-important CPE form of those that you needed. Don't forget to sign and drop off the white copy at the registration desk. The yellow copy is for your own. Conference sessions are all on this level of the facility with meals, breaks, and networking reception at the end of today's session right next door with our exhibitors. Make sure you get your conference program stamped by all 18 of our exhibitors so you can qualify for prize drawings during tomorrow's lunch. By the way, let's take a moment to thank all of our exhibitors and sponsors who helped us make this conference happen. In addition to the program in this room, after the keynote presentation ends at 11, some of you will be moving to the Neapolitan 4 to attend the XBRL Data Forum. The Data Forum is a one-day workshop on technical issues related to XBRL and structured data. After the break, when everyone comes back here for the final keynote presentation, those who plan on attending the Data Forum may want to sit in the theater-style seats at the back so you can quickly move back to your venue. In the afternoon, there'll be a breakout session covering XBRL and the internal audit function. Please keep your cell phone ringers, tablets, notebooks muted, and so all the participants can speak or be clearly heard. If you are sharing details about our conference via Twitter, this would be specifically for me. It's hashtag XBRL 2013, so others tweeting and reading will see your insights. And it's not too late to invite your colleagues back at home to watch the keynote presentation, which is being streamed live right now at xbrl.us/webcast. The webcast is provided compliments of Invoke. Please join me in thanking Invoke for their commitment to bring these important remarks to the rest of the world. So now, on with the show. Our first keynote today comes to us via technology, and it is Darrell, Issa, Congressman, U.S. House of Representatives, and Chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He has represented the people of California, 49th Congressional District, which includes San Diego and Orange County, in the United States House of Representatives, a seat he has held since 2001. Congressman Issa and his wife Kathy live in Vista, California, and previously he served in the United States Army, ultimately obtaining the rank of captain. In 2009, Congressman Issa assumed the leadership of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, first as a ranking member and now as the chairman. Congressman Issa has led the fight to bring data and reporting standards to federal spending and financial reporting through legislation like the Data Act and the Financial Industry Transparency Act. And so with that, let's roll the tape.
Good morning, Chairman Issa. Thank you for joining us via video at this year's XBRL US conference.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be involved in the conference. I'm just sorry I can't be there in person. To thank all the people involved in helping us get to structured data that's giving us real meaningful information in government.
Is it possible to tell us about the Data Act? Where does it stand, and what are some of the next legislative steps that you guys will be taking?
Well, the Data Act is passed out of committee unanimously. We're going to the floor this year with broad support. We expect it to pass shortly out of the House. And in the Senate, companion bills are already in play, and we believe it'll move this year late.
Okay, good. And what should attendees of the conference be interested in relative to the passage of the Data Act?
Well, I think the important thing for everybody who wants to see structured data and meaningful interoperability between disparate databases in government is that the Data Act mandates that. It mandates real reform in how we produce our data to begin with, so that never again will we be piling legacy systems after legacy systems that cannot be, in even at great expense, made to interoperate.
And recently, just in terms of some of the initiatives that have been going on, do you think that what are some of the things that can be brought to bring government performance, can improve government performance with the Data Act?
Well, so often we hear that transparency is the most important thing. It's what we want. It's what President Obama said he wanted to bring us. Well, transparency in whether politicians tell you everything they're doing may always be hard to get to, but transparency in where the money's spent, recipient reporting of where they spend the money and where the people they pass it on to spend it is very possible today, and it gives a level of transparency both to government and to the watchdogs who want to see where their tax dollars are spent.
Recently, your office sent a letter to the SEC looking at structured data. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the drivers behind that?
Well, like anything else that you've already agreed to, there's always somebody that doesn't understand the agreement. And in the case of the Security Exchange Commission, the idea that reporting companies are providing all the digital information in a structured XBRL format and, oh, by the way, providing it in paper backup, and the SEC continues to use the paper, creates errors, delays, and quite frankly, gives an opportunity for hedge funds to make money off of what would otherwise be the normal investor's return.
So in response to that, what are some of the things that you'd like the SEC to provide to you and to do better?
What we want the SEC to do is to go full digital, full online, and using XBRL to make that available with the shortest possible lockout window. Imagine that a 10K were to be released to the world at an exact moment digitally. How long would you have to hold trading or average all of the trades requested? A few minutes at the most. That means that you wouldn't suspend trading for very long. You would allow companies to report at any time, and large investors and small investors alike would have the ability to crunch a return quickly, where today, quite frankly, what you see is very large organizations that can tear this paper quickly apart, can make investment decisions and game the system, if you will, during a time in which most investors don't really understand what the 10K means.
Do you see that out of this could be other opportunities for other businesses to evolve with having this data freely available?
Well, one of the things about driving more data is that you kill industries. You kill the industries that spend a lot of money taking hard jobs and making a report. But you create an industry which is, because you've made it so easy, much deeper and more meaningful data can occur. And I think one of the examples is if you wanted to know the weather or where an aircraft was inbound, not too long ago, you would have to call United or you'd have to do something to find out where the airplane was, and you'd get an inaccurate determination of how far away the airplane was and when it would land. Today, you can go online because that data is available, and an app that costs you little or nothing on your iPhone will show you exactly where a particular flight is and give you a very accurate estimate of when it's going to be, at least in the pattern, for the airport. Never again will you have to ask, did the airplane take off? You can see it online. The same with weather. Opening up the data that was already there means that almost all of us can be amateur weathermen. Those are two good examples where a tremendous amount of jobs that used to answer questions for people, phone calls, emails, were lost. But so much was created that the economy itself grows as a result. It's a little bit like Henry Ford inventing the assembly line. He drove down the cost of a car, which means he used less labor, but America prospered because of it.
Is there, just in terms of some of the data that the SEC is currently collecting with the in XBRL format as the 10Ks and the 10Qs, is it feasible, do you think, that this could be expanded to other things like the proxy or reporting of municipal financial information as well?
We do believe that it can be expanded throughout all reporting, but when you talk about one area of reporting, right now there's a mandate that's about to go out that requires that, and it's a rather vindictive one from the SEC, it requires that you give the median payroll of your entire workforce and then your CEO's compensation so that people can come up with this number, this multiple number. Well, obviously there's a pretty nefarious reason for that. You want to be able to bash the CEO. If you had all the data, then people could manipulate an awful lot of more meaningful data. How old is the workforce? How many of them will fall off next year and be replaced by less expensive employees? What's the healthcare risk? All kinds of formula information, both in company and out of company, is possible if you structure the data. So where I see something that serves very little purpose, I look behind and say, but the data necessary to get that number could give you a wealth of information both for the company and, quite frankly, for the investors who want to know where the company is going. You know, a little bit like you always hear about what Pfizer's patent expirations are. Well, imagine that all that kind of information is easily digitally available. Instead of having an analyst tell you, you can be your own amateur analyst. And quite frankly, if millions of people are amateur analysts, better information and better knowledge will be gained.
Exactly. And do you see within the SEC that they will be able to improve their ability to do analysis with this data as well?
I have very little faith that the SEC will get better at analysis. I have great faith that if they make more available to the public, including the investor community, to be honest, those who invest on behalf of others, will be more accurately reporting disparities and problems to the SEC. And the SEC's ability to react to accurately reported, data-based conclusions of problems in companies could make the SEC's enforcement arm much more effective.
So what are some tangible steps that you think the SEC could do or what should they concentrate on in that regard?
The SEC should concentrate on all the information it receives that can be made available to the public, made available to the public online. As you said, that includes municipal reporting. I think the other part of it is the SEC has to look at its website as obsolete. It's got to look at itself as a data warehouse and start opening up in open source format to the greatest extent possible access to more and more developers. If they do that, I think there's a treasure trove there for the American people.
And just for people at the conference who are listening, is there anything that you would recommend that they can do to help in this regard in terms of opening up data, both government data and SEC data?
Well, I think for those who are developers, the what-if development is always very positive. In other words, if you don't have a piece of information, but you know you could, develop an app that when that becomes available would show you what you can achieve. Often, I see that when you see what could happen, it encourages bureaucrats to open up data sooner because they'll see the benefit. That's one area that's important. The second one is the SEC and the FDIC and a few other agencies are a starting point. The Data Act intends to make sure all of government, crop information, where Medicare and Medicaid funding is being spent. To be honest, every doctor and every access point, knowing where you could get it so you can develop databases of essentially where the public should go or not go is important. The last thing is that until you bring together disparate databases, rooting out fraud both in government and in the private sector won't be possible. Very often, frauds can hide within one funding. Well, they can't hide if you see it all. One example that I think we all became familiar with was under the Recovery Act, when they found doctors applying for licenses, there was nothing wrong with their application for license, except they were applying to do business in California while they were Kansans in their actual practices. Only linking the database against a geolocation made it pretty obvious that something was wrong, and that led to major shutdown before we lost money.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming and speaking at the conference today. We really appreciate it, and thank you for your time. And anything that you can do and you've done to help in the XBRL and opening data is very much appreciated by a very large constituency. So thank you very much.
Well, you're most welcome. I look forward to seeing this as an expanded conference next year and being there in person.
Thank you.